don't you introduce yourselves and tell us what instrument you're playing and how long you've been playing?
Boy, that's a lot to ask in an introduction. I'm Rob Shepard.
Name an instrument. How about that?
I'm Rob Shepard. I am keys for Manticore.
And I'm Glenn Dove, and I'm the drummer and percussionist for Manticore.
Oh boy.
And
Very.
like 55 years, that's about it, yeah. I'm playing drums 55 years.
And he's only 54 years old, so so he did a year in utero.
I love it. That's so great. And Rob.
Yes.
I do have to ask you, how difficult was it on the keyboard to learn Keith's, the maestro's music?
It was incredibly difficult. It was so difficult. I've been learning it since 1977, and some of them I still haven't gotten right. It took me a long time. We were working on this project for a year before we started playing out in front of people, and of that year, I spent a lot of the time just learning material. It took me a long time.
I can imagine. Now, how long had you been playing before you started with ELP music? And what was the first ELP song on KeySend that you wanted to learn?
Well, I mean, I've been playing for 57 years. I've been playing out with bands since I was 15. Combo Compact Deluxe organ with a Univox 21-pound piano and a CAD SRM synthesizer, and trying to make that sound like a Moog and a Steinway Grand and a Hammond is just beyond ridiculous.
I can imagine.
But that was what I was doing back in 1977.
So you must have had a lot of workarounds to try to get the sound that Keith would put out on his.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, like I put my Farfisa through a distortion with a little digital delay and a full rotor Leslie simulator, and I was able to get as close as I can get, as close as anybody can get with the Farfisa. But yeah, a lot of workarounds. I was the king of working around to try and make whatever I could afford sound bigger than it really was.
And that's not easy.
No.
That's just a labor of love.
Yeah, but when you're 18 years old, you can make anything work for you. So
you can. Don't you have the greatest imagination at that age?
Yeah, I thought it sounded good. So nobody told me differently. And that worked for me.
Obviously, since you're still around and you're in Manticore and you're doing probably one of the hardest instruments in the group, which, by the way, I was going to get to you over there, Carl Palmer.
Yeah, he's doing the second hardest instruments.
Yeah.
That's just what I was going to say. It has to be the second hardest. Is Carl's.
Well, yeah, with Carl, it's also the kit, because back in the 70s and 80s when he had this massive kit, I had a massive kit that big, and I used to cart it around the country when I would tour. So with Carl, it's not just the playing, it's the whole setup also, which is, a whole.
Well, explain a little bit about the whole setup, and against, say, another group or the average groups out here, not necessarily that are doing tribute work, but just, the basic, I'm not, really up there yet, but I'm climbing. What kind of kits do they have based upon the kind of kit that you put together?
Well, what Carl used back in the 70s, which most guys did, they used these massive drum sets. They used to call them Octoplus because they had 8 drums. I used to take timpanis, chimes, gongs, vibes. So I had this, and then we talked about before with trucks. Now with technology, when Manticore first started, I was using actually a Roland TD-50. So everything I needed was digitally programmed, and I could hit a little pad and have the sound of a gong. And then I guess about 6 months ago, I decided to go to real drums, and I got a stainless steel kit. And I brought the gongs out. So I'm using actually stainless steel drums and gongs. That's what Carl uses now. Basically, I'm using DW. He uses Ludwig, but I'm using it, which is a very heavy drum set also to move around. It's not a light set. I have 5 kids, so with this band I use a stainless steel DW set, and I use Peisty gongs, and pretty much what Carl is using right now.
Now, do you guys typically play in one specific place? Because I'm noticing all the equipment, and it almost looks like something you'd want to set up and maybe be there a week or be there for a month, and not have to.
Yeah, be there for about 2 hours. Yeah, I wish that also.
That. Yeah, no, we play all around the New York tri-state area. We spread out a little bit because we played up in Niagara Falls. We'll be playing in Jersey in March, in Pennsylvania in April. Jersey in April and Pennsylvania in May. So we're pretty much around the New York tri-state area, but we just play once a month. So we go in, we take a weekend. This is our weekend together. And we go and we set up a couple of hours before the show. Usually if it's an 8 o'clock show, we'll set up around 3 so that we have time to play a little bit, do a good sound check, and then relax before the show starts.
Absolutely. That's an excellent agenda.
But as far as rehearsals go, one of the points that my inner prima donna came out when I set up this band, and one of the things was we had to do rehearsals here in my home, because there's no way that I'm going to break down my kit, all my whole rig, to put it in the car, bring it to some rehearsal studio, set it up, practice for 3 hours or 2.5 hours, then break it down and bring it back home. It would have just been ridiculous.
I can imagine.
So all the rehearsals are done here.
And by the way, the background that you have behind you is very familiar, and I understand that you use that back in your performances.
Yes. Yeah. And plus, anytime I talk to anybody as a video chat, I set this up before I have the video chat with people, just so they can see that. But
I need something like that. I don't know, trilogy or something that I can put behind me. But so tell me, guys, how many ELP songs do you guys typically do in a set? And do you have favorites?
We do a 2-hour show?
About a 2.5 hour show.
2.5 hour show.
Okay.
And I don't. I guess Tarkus is one of my favorites, but
yeah, it's out of the ELP library, I think we do 20 songs. It's gotten to where we can't include all the songs in a show.
Right.
So I have to kind of pick and choose, and I look at old set lists. So when I play a second time at a venue, I'll change it out. So I'm trying to do songs that we haven't done there before. We're doing a lot of venues for the second and third time now, because we've been together we've been playing out for a year and a half. So I try to keep adding material, but the problem that I'm having is you can't play everything.
You really can't, and it is pick and choose. And if you've got that variety going with you, going from place to place and realizing, gee, I was just here maybe 3 months ago and I'm coming back around, change the setup a little bit in the song list, and people that may be even coming back to see you again will have a little bit of a different variety of music. Yeah. I was going to ask you if you ever get down to North Carolina.
No, but that's not for lack of trying. I've tried to solicit some of the theaters down there. It's tough to get down there. We may be playing as far south as Wilmington, Delaware, in the summer of 2020. So I'm still working that out, but that's probably as far south as we're going to be able to get for the time being.
How about west? How far west will you go outside? Any outside of the tribe?
I would go. I would work in any state for me, but it's logistics with the band and get everybody together. It's one thing when you go out on a tour and you're out playing and you start to hit these cities, but we're coming from New York, so if we're playing Niagara Falls, that's an 8-hour drive for us.
Well, you're not kidding there.
So we're talking like we leave the day before. We usually get up the night before. Usually the club lets us, or the average show is a couple of hour drive. So it becomes a project. When you're out, most of the time you see bands doing these shows. You pick a job in North Carolina, then the next night you're in Georgia, then the next night you're in Florida. So you're just going from one to the other. But for us, since we're not doing that many shows with this project, it's a little bit hard. So it's
Yeah, I can imagine that would get a little difficult. I only ask because I think I'm coming out there in February.
Well, if you're coming over to North Carolina, then you should absolutely just work a little side trip up into the New York area, and maybe we can time your trip to with a show. When did you say you're coming out to North Carolina?
Well, my daughter's having some pretty serious surgery on her hip, and my husband and I are down south, and she's in the North Bay. So only one of us can go because of the size of the apartment. And my husband's got to bring a big cot, and he's like 6'4", so there's no room for both of us. So I'm going to be here by myself for about.
How about this? How about you come east with your husband, let him stay with your daughter, and then you can come up and stay in New York and catch the show, and then travel back with him.
It's funny. My wife actually commutes to North Carolina. She lives in New York and she flies to work. So she goes out on Mondays and flies home on Thursdays.
Oh, yeah. I worked for a couple of presidents in Sun Microsystems division that was doing the same exact thing from Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm usually out in January. I'm usually at NAMM. And when I first started going, it was like I'd go out and just stay for 2 days. Then it was 3. Then I just started extending it. So then it used to be I was out in LA for like 2 weeks in January. It's probably the first year I'm not going, but anybody out there, it's not going to happen.
Oh, and I'm so sad. But no, we have another admin, David Harris. I'm sure you heard of him. Mm-hmm. And he and I have been talking about kind of hooking up here next year when she finishes her surgery and is probably more into the rehabilitation process. So I know she's out of danger and she's in good shape. But yeah, I'm saving my pennies, and I really want to see you guys play in person. And
yeah,
so
I've had a lot of people asking if we play in Florida, if we come to LA. Somebody asked if we can come down to New Mexico, Colorado, Montana. I would love to.
Canada. We went in Niagara Falls. They want us up in Canada, but you have to plan those where you're working multiple nights and you're traveling down. For us, the one night is just hard.
Right. Plus, we're working stiffs. We have real jobs and real lives, and I have to try and coordinate that with the travel.
Do you mind if I ask what you guys do when you're not playing?
Well, that'll kind of ruin the mystique of
oh, okay.
The LP thing, won't it? It's
no worries.
We're professional musicians here. That's what we're talking about. not doing our day jobs.
Yeah, everybody's got to do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't all have fun all the time. I have a couple of questions that have come up. And let me see. Rob, I learned that you come from Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see. I've got some notes here, but I want to find my, I've got my questions here. Let's see. I'm looking for David Harris's questions specifically. They want, here they are. Okay, we have a question from David Harris that, wants to know, of course, how long have you guys been together as a group?
We've been together since 2017.
And this is the group that you're currently, where you have current members today.
We know a couple of out now. The bass player is we just switched because our bass player had moved to South Carolina. He's done the last 2 shows with us, so he's only been in a couple of months, right?
About 4 months.
How's he doing?
And it was a lot of material to come in, and we kind of gave him like this 2-hour show, and you're not learning like a Beatles song, you're learning Talk is Carnival 9, so it's it's a lot of work.
I tell you, I do not envy him at all. Not at all.
Yeah. The project actually started right after Greg passed, because Eddie, our original bass player, called me up and said, "Listen, you've been talking about doing an ELP tribute for years. Now that Greg and Keith are both gone, I think now's the time you really should do it." And at that point, I thought about Glenn, because Glenn, I played with in a band called Afterlife about 12 years ago.
2008. We did Genesis, ELP, UK. So we were doing some of this material before. Him and I were doing it before.
I had actually read that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Glenn's just a spectacular drummer, and he was playing on an electronic kit, and he had a kit set up for Carl Palmer, and I just thought he would be a great match for this project. And I figured, well, he's probably too busy, he's not going to be able to do this. But as soon as I said ELP, he was all in. And I didn't know where I was going to find somebody that sounded like Greg Lake. And a friend of mine, Kathy Shepard over in Jersey, said, I know somebody that might be interested. He's over here in Jersey. And no sooner had I finished the conversation with her texting than Bob got in touch with me and said yes. And I didn't even know that I would be really interested until I Googled him, and I heard some of his YouTubes, and he sounded good. So I figured, well, this might work if he's willing to travel. And the thing just kind of fell together. And Eddie, the bass player, was the bass player in the Red, White, and Blues band, which is a rock and roll blues band that's been around for a long time. They've opened for ZZ Top. They've played on stage with a lot of great rock and roll bands. And he's never played prog before. He's known ELP for years, but he's never played it. So this was a challenge for him in changing his playing style to be able to actually play prog and play ELP.
That's quite a change.
Big job.
That even if you were, say, as a teenager and you discovered your bass or your guitar, your drums, your keyboard, and you discover ELP, and it's like, ooh, I'd like to play some of that music, but it's a shocker.
It's what you get. I have 3 sons. I actually have a stepson, 4 sons, and they all played music at one point. One's a professional musician, and he was raised on ELP and Genesis. And yes, so he's 27, but he just knew this because that's the type of music he listened to when he was younger. So it's what, and I same thing for myself. I remember going into like drum lessons in 1970, bringing the first album, and learning Tank. I was like in ninth grade or something. So for me, it's other than after the Beatle phase that I went through in the early '60s when I was learning how to play. I've been doing it for so many years. It's just my norm. Just like other guys play blues or they play country. So I really can't say it was hard because it's all just what I listened to. That's what I played. But for somebody like Ed, it was a little bit different because he's not used to playing the kind of music, the odd signatures, and it's not that crazy, but it's definitely not,
Yeah, playing with a pick.
Yeah, so.
Oh, he's playing with a pick.
Well, he's never played with a pick before. He's always played just, bass with the fingers. So when we first started getting together for rehearsals, I said, well, Ed, you're playing the right notes, but it doesn't quite sound right. You really need to play that with a pick. And he said, really? I said, yeah, just try it. And it was a whole learning process with him. He had, all of us had a high bar to reach to play this stuff. And there's a learning curve for all aspects of what we're doing. I had to tighten up my game just to be able to play accurately the stuff that Keith did just off the top of his head. And that was Ed's thing. He had to be able to learn to play with a pick and to learn prog, playing in odd time signatures, very complex parts.
Yeah. They really, really are. And, I think of, what you do with percussion. Here's my question. Do you play it like Carl, like around the late 60s, 1970s, when he had the bell above his head, the two gongs?
Actually, yeah, I guess it was the 70s, there was a band called Ram Jam with a song called Black Betty, and I was the drummer in that band. When I toured the U.S. with them, I actually took the drum set with two gongs and all that equipment. That was moved every evening. And they didn't have was the bell, but I basically had that same setup. I had a stage made where the gong snap, everything was like custom made. In those days, you couldn't get the key. Now everything is available. In those days, I used to have to take a bottle of liquor and give it to some guy to weld pipe for me, to make the stage. And I actually toured with all of that. Yeah, so I had all of that gear. Somewhere there's a picture. I think it's on Facebook. Then and now. Then the sets got smaller in the 80s. And I was professional, so I wasn't a full-time musician. And then when the kids came along, I got involved in some other things. I wanted to be home with my kids. And then I went like small as well. Then I went to electronic drums, and I've been using those. And as I said, I have like 5 drum sets. I'm always, I collect drums. So I actually have a house. If you see my living room, there's about 5 or 6 drum kits, full setup in my living room. I got a really patient wife. And now it's starting to grow again, because since we decided to go from electronic to acoustic, as I said, I'm carrying around a stainless steel drum set with 2 gongs and a little electronics. So I basically take the same kit Carl uses right now. It's the same type as he uses 2 bass drums and I use double pedal. But what he's taking on actually, I think that I'm bringing bigger gongs. He's even bringing smaller ones now. So I must be crazy, carrying these Chinese gongs.
Let me ask you, did you learn toccata with the synths?
Yeah, actually, I used to play it on real timpanis with chimes. I would take that. When I was playing in some of the rock bands, my drum solo came up. I actually did the toccata solo. And this is like when I was playing with like just regular rock bands in some of the Long Island clubs. I had the chimes in that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You must have absolutely had that whole dance floor going.
Yeah, it was pretty strange, but
I mean, seriously, that was the first song I ever heard from prog music and from a prog band, and it just happened to be Brain Salad Surgery, and he picked toccata for my first introduction song. Thank you. And it turned out that the synths I really loved. I was so shocked, and the sounds that they make are, I think a lot of us find not only just unique, but very, very special, because I think Carl was one of the first to use those synths.
Yeah, he had sequences loaded into drums, so when he hit them, it would run a preset sequence. I think back to like some of the electronic percussion. There was something called I think it was like Sinair, and then
The
Sin
Sinair,
drums, and then
yeah.
then they started with the drum kits, and then Roland came out with something called the TDE7, and that was like a whole complete drum set. It's like computers. I mean, you think back, what your iPhone does now is more than my Apple IIe or IIc did. So now the electronics have gone so far. But Carl was one of the, pretty much as I know, one of the first to have some sort of. People always thought it was Keith, but it was Carl when he did staccato. Those arpeggios were all from his drum set.
Oh yeah, I mean you can hear it. You know, when he hits those drums that have that all pre-programmed synth sounds in them. But I at first I was very puzzled by that, you know, sound. Is that music? Is that not music? I don't know. But I had loved everything up to that point. And then I went, you know what? This is damn cool.
And that drum set was unique because British Steel made it for him. And we got to hang out with Carl one night. Rob got some artwork of his. We were talking about it. What happened was they asked him if they wanted to sell, like, you know, a quarter of an inch or half inch thick or whatever it was. And they said there was no difference in price. So Carl just said, you know, the 70s, the bigger the better.
Bigger is better.
It was a 2-ton drum set. So the stage actually collapsed one night in Virginia.
Yeah, I heard about
it took
that.
2 or 3 people to lift the bass drum. The drum set's just been restored, but I mean, the stainless steel kits that I use now are heavier than my regular set, but not to the point that you need, like, you know, 2 or 3 people lifting the bass drum.
Okay, or you don't need a reinforced floor.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Now, here's one. You have a steel kit. Is there any design?
No, he had a guy with a dentist drill. What happened was the Purdy rifles used to have these little hunting scenes. So he had a guy with an artist with the dentist drill actually do into it. No, it's just a straight kit. A lot of companies don't make it. Ludwig made it in the 70s, a stainless steel kit. John Bonham and Zeppelin used it, and Carl. And then DW, which is a company based out of California, they came out with the kit. I was out in California about 2 years ago at NAMM, and I saw it. And I pulled the trigger after we were playing for a while and decided to go back to the acoustic set. And then I had to re-get the gongs, and that's another thing, because I had sold the Chinese gongs, and we're talking Paiste, which are very, very pricey. And
unless you have an endorsement.
Yes, and they are not cheap. And so then I had to get those. So, but they're an investment, you know. That's
one of 5.
Yeah, it's. I do still use some electronics. I mix it right now. I'm not triggering, but I do carry sample pads. So timpanis and certain things I have programs in, you know. So sound effects, you know.
I love that. Very great information, because, you know, you never know about one drummer to the next that's playing ELP, because it's such a unique sound. I mean, they came around with Pink Floyd and Genesis and others, and Jimi Hendrix, I believe, and the Doors were trying to reestablish themselves. And of course, bears the question now, are you going to the Isle of Wight? Do you know about it?
What, they're doing another concert at the Isle of Wight?
They're doing.
That's right. Tom Zachary was trying to set that up.
That's right. Tom's putting this together, and evidently he's really got quite a lineup set for the people that are gonna, you know, copy and tribute to Jimi Hendrix, Doors, and Who, and.
Right. Well, he's got the ELP part of it locked up.
Yeah.
if he'd like some assistance, I'm always willing to listen.
Or willing to go.
But
next point.
I think he's got Isle of Wight all locked up, and I think it's going to be an amazing show. I'm probably going to go.
Are you?
Yeah, if he does it.
I want to do that so bad. I don't know that I can. I can make that, but
Well, here's the thing: you have to just decide to do it. When they did the tribute to Keith over in Birmingham in 2017, I just decided I was going to go, and I went. And it was an amazing show. Rick Wakeman showed up, and
God,
Rachel Flowers was playing, and
what a sweetheart.
yeah, it was Jim Davidson did an incredible job setting that whole show up, and Nadi's Puncture played.
That's another band that I have to see.
But that was the thing. I really decided it's a once in a lifetime thing. I'm going, and that's what you have to do.
That's how it feels for me. I feel like the convention and the Isle of Wight are bucket items because, you know, the people that they are setting up, Tom's doing such an amazing job at putting this whole thing together. I think he's working a lot right now on the Isle of Wight. And he's getting the bands together, and I don't know what other surprises or what other events are planned for the Isle of Wight, but I am thinking that it's probably going to be quite a thing. And I think it's for what, 2 or 3 days?
I don't know. I haven't been following him and lately, but he wants to recreate the Isle of Wight phenomenon. So
I know. Isn't that going to be so awesome?
If he can do it, it'll be pretty spectacular.
If I went, I would have to wear the clothes I would have worn in 1970, which would have been
bell bottoms, no.
Bell bottoms and a fringe jacket.
Oh wait, but the bell bottoms, the back of them have to be all frayed from stepping on the back, right?
Right.
And then some girls embroidered little patterns on their back pockets, and we had our thing. We had a look back, and I like that we had a look. We had a look that was very comfortable.
And you have to have the fringe jacket too. That's the way to do it.
And those boots, you gotta wear the boots, and you know, you gotta or the Dr. Scholl's foot. Remember those wooden big old?
With the
clogs.
No, they were like like an open sandal. They were just like you know.
I didn't have those. I was not one of the cool kids.
Birkin shoes. They're almost like those.
The cool kids. Oh, thank you.
Shoes.
Yeah, they're like an earth shoe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I wore those things for like 2 years in high school, and I don't know how long it took me to get used to taking my toes to hold on to the shoe when I walked. But, you know, once I got into the habit, it was fine. But, yeah, the 70s and that whole 10 years, there was a lot of great music that came out. I thought that the rock and roll world and the progressive world was at its finest in around 1960.
General John.
Yeah, the 70s. I mean, ELP kind of kicked it off as that first supergroup thing,
right?
And when they came out and started touring around 70, 69, 70, and all of a sudden, playing in arenas and not concert halls, but like coliseums became the thing. To be big enough to fill an arena.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can remember going to those concerts, 69, 70-ish, when ELP and Yes and Genesis were literally filling a coliseum and selling out and announcing a second show because people just couldn't get enough. And if they had 2 shows, I had 2 tickets.
And
And
the
I,
expensive tickets were $25.
Well, actually, I remember going to the Fillmore and seeing ELP, and I think it was like $3.50. And the Late Show, they did an early show that was like 7 to 9, and the Late Show was like 10 to 3 in the morning. So you'd get out at about. I used to tell my parents I was sleeping in a friend's house and sneak out and go to the Fillmore. And I was down in Alphabet City in Manhattan. But those days, then they started with hit the arenas, and that's when they became, the big shows, 50,000, 30,000 seaters or whatever.
Yeah.
and Yes did the same thing. I can remember, I'll tell you a quick story about Rick Wakeman. Rick Wakeman, when I was just hanging out by the backstage for no reason really at all, other than, wanted to meet him. And Rick Wakeman came out to say hi to about 6 of us that were standing around. So I went over to him and I was like, all excited. I'm like probably 14, 15 years old, long hair, and looking like probably a 8th grade. And I'm like, all excited. Oh my gosh, this is Rick Wakeman. Oh my gosh. And I said, I have tickets to both your shows. And he's signing my ticket. And he looks at me and he goes, why? I said, oh, he asked me why. Okay, real quick. Because each show could be potentially a little different. You never know. Something could go wrong. Something could be so right that you do extra. You could have a last minute change up in the song list. There are a lot of things. And he looked at me and he said, you're a fool. And I looked at him and I said, no, I don't think so. That night, his equipment failed and he could not do a solo.
And it was your fault?
Oh, yeah. It was all because I was there. But,
Steve Howe talked about that. He said in the old days when they go out, like how you go through an evening and stuff always broke down, the Echoplex. Mm-hmm. Now, like I used to carry, spare snare drum, spare. Mm-hmm. Now I go out, I barely carry anything backup because things don't break down like they used to.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, compared to the old, when things were just,
all I gotta say is Rick Wakeman, the second show, you better believe that solo was hot. He had that stuff fixed. And all I kept thinking in my head as I'm hooting and hollering is, see, that's why I buy for both shows.
That's right.
I felt like I had the last word for a second there, but no, I always did that. If there was a second show and it was somebody like ELP, or Pink Floyd, whatever, I mean, I had to, if I could afford it.
Well, those are the true fans, It's like you don't have to be a musician to be a fan.
No, you don't.
And it's something that I had a hard time getting because I've been a musician all my life. And I couldn't understand how people who aren't musicians love Yes and Gentle Giant and ELP. And I thought this, I'm thinking I'm getting all the musical stuff out of it. What is a non-musician getting out of this stuff? And I'm only learning maybe in the last 10 years that people who aren't necessarily musicians love this stuff and they go crazy over it.
It comes from when you start to play, whatever it is, say one of my favorites, K9, and starts off with the keys. And so, Rob, if you were to start to play the intro for, say, part 2, I would be crying. I would have closed my eyes and I would have thought, I am right now sitting in front of Keith, because that's how it feels for all of you guys. And I know that there are a lot of us, our members there on the Titan site, that feel exactly the same way and have expressed that to me many, many times, that when they listen to you play, and they shut their eyes. Some people say it takes them, I say it takes me back to a time machine. You guys are the time machine. Literally. You step in the nightclub to see Manticore. You have just stepped into a time machine. You're going to sit down and you're going to travel back to 1970, where everybody was peace and love, and the songs are great. It's ELP, and it's just like perfect.
Yeah, I kind of get that now. And as a matter of fact, it's only in the last couple of years that I've understood it. And that's why with Manticore, I'm trying to go with the studio versions of the songs, because that's the way you remember hearing it. So to take a studio version and try and reproduce that on stage, as opposed to one of the live versions, which maybe people that didn't go to the concerts didn't quite get. If I could get the studio versions and reproduce it on stage as a live group playing the studio version, I thought it would allow people to kind of bring back that childhood thing of the first thing you heard, the first time you heard ELP, or the first time you ever sat with a bunch of friends and listened to Tarkus.
Wow.
It was probably off the Tarkus album, not off one of the live albums. So I thought if we could reproduce that, that would be an amazing thing.
What do you like? Do you guys like listening to live or studio?
With me, it really depends on whether I'm trying to learn the songs or whether I'm just listening for pleasure. If I'm listening for pleasure, I like to listen to the live versions of songs that I know.
I'm the same.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. I love that.
If I'm learning the material, I have to get to know all different versions of the song, because I want to hear what they did live to compensate for the multi-track recordings. I want to hear what parts they may have left out in order to make it work for them.
Yes, sure. I'm sure that there must have been some occasions in some places on tour where their timing may be a little bit shorter, where they have to kind of compress a little bit on some of their songs.
Sure.
And
well, look at the versions of Carnival 9 when a little bit later, when Greg wasn't playing electric guitar so much anymore, and Keith was covering all the lead lines.
Yeah.
So it started changing a lot.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And it's really shortened and it's edited, but some of it I understand. And I think they want to do that also, don't they, for radio purposes, or, to people that want to listen to stations, whether they're online or right out of the old box. I think shortening it helps the station stay on.
Well, I think shortening the songs allows them to play more material, because when you have 15-minute songs, how many songs can you do in a show? No. So instead of doing Carnival 9 Part 1 and Part 2, First Impression, they were doing just Part 2. So it's only 7 minutes long, and they can do that, and they could do more songs, more stuff from a new album.
Yes, they could. And you know what? Everybody loves Part 2. Yeah. Everybody loves Part 2. So you want to shorten it, and you want to put some Part 2 in there only? I mean, all I have to do is hear the very beginning of that sound that Keith makes, that little chirpy.
Right. It's the sample and hold pattern. But here's my thing as an ELP lover and somebody who's playing the music. I want to take it to the next level, and maybe I'm not just playing for the person that grew up with ELP. I'm playing for us, and I'm playing for the people who are so detail oriented that oh man, there's a little bit of feedback on the original recording that was missing. No, I want to get the details. So I want to, if Benny the Bouncer comes before Carnival 9 on the album, and I know everybody who's really nuts about this stuff has listened to Benny the Bouncer, and you always let it go into Carnival 9 with that Hammond sound going right into the next song. That's what I want to do.
I don't blame you, because that sounds like right off the Welcome Back My Friends album.
Mm-hmm.
I love the what is it, the Sheriff and
Jeremy Bender together. Yeah.
And how they did that, right? I mean, how was it for you as a singer to not only learn, it's not just the words, it's Greg's timing, it's how he moves those words through the song, and that's something sometimes you have to be taught how to do. You need somebody to come in who specializes in this kind of prog and go, okay, I'm going to teach you how to breathe, and I'm going to teach you how to open your vocal cords.
Yeah, it takes that level of training.
Did you have much training? Because you have a beautiful voice.
No, that's not me singing.
That's
yeah,
Bob.
I know.
That's Bob. Bob Chuella is our singer, and he lives in Jersey, so he couldn't make it tonight. But it's, I don't know, what can you say?
I know, right? That? Well, let me see here. I think I have something right here from David that says, let's see, it's close friendship with noted rock photographer John Bellissimo. Allowed him to be up front or backstage with many famous rock bands, most notably ELP, who left an incredible impression on him. So it was a great pleasure. Ed joins Manticore. And
John has to come to our show now so he can relive his time with ELP. I
have to go there. And I'm totally willing. In fact, I've already talked to my other admin, getting things set up and arranged. And all we need to do is work out details to get to you, because my whole purpose of getting in an airplane would be to see you guys only. And then I can spend a couple of days with my admin, which would be great. I mean, him and his wife are awesome. And
maybe you can do a live broadcast, a live stream of one of our shows.
And I'd actually have all the bugs fixed.
Right. For the Titans of Prague, you can do that live broadcast.
Would you let me do that for real?
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, everybody, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Titans of Prague, we are going to have Manticore, and we are going to do a live broadcast. I will probably talk to these guys in between their sound check and just see how things are going there. And then after the show, we'll take some pictures and I'll add those, and we'll have more, I'm sure, more questions. I mean, I'm sure out of this interview alone, there's a lot of people that didn't know a whole lot about Manticore. We have a lot of brand new people to the group. We will always welcome Prague followers, but we really love it when we see groups like, Emerson, Lake and Palmer Disc, or, other ELP groups, because having some savvy people like yourselves in this group that can address a question and say, oh, no, it's like, ABC or whatever, or make a post yourself. I mean, that's just like a treat. That's like a Christmas gift to me. And so being asked is a big honor to be able to actually do your whole show, and then do a little Q&A and a little fun, a little fun stuff too. Maybe I'll buy you guys all a drink. Somebody likes beer.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch, and we'll work out a show that you can come out and.
It's the venues too, because we work mostly theaters. There's some other venues we work as well. The last show we played, the Hudson Fall, was great because we were able to have a video thing. Every tune we played, we actually had video behind. Some of the other shows at the theaters are smaller. It depends. So that's another thing. Working at one of the better venues or the bigger venues.
Well, I'm coming. I'm on my way. In fact, I'll be buying my ticket soon.
Hopefully we'll have the flying piano by then.
Maybe I'll take the flying piano to see. I couldn't resist that one. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
look, Nadi's Puncture has been together for so many years. They've been together since what, the mid 80s.
Yeah, I mean, well, wait a minute. They were together before ELP was
well, they were playing out during their hiatus when ELP was kind of broken up.
That was it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tom Zachary has had a chance to play with Emo.
Yeah.
Frank Askew has written a book. He's written a couple of books, right?
Yep.
On ELP.
Again, too soon.
Yeah. So they've been doing this for a long time, and we're new guys to the scene, but we don't enjoy it any less than they do. We're just new and trying to feel our ways around and trying to get this side of the pond included in the whole Emerson, Lake and Palmer legacy.
And we are so happy that you're there. Everybody has just had the greatest things to say about Manticore. For those who have been there and have seen your shows, to those who ask questions because they haven't. And then I put some videos up for our newbies that may not even know you're there, that would go, oh my gosh, I have another avenue. And some of these people may even live in your area. So I like doing, stuff like that. So because you are kind of new, but yet you have some amazing talent, all of you guys, all four of you are just incredible. The vocals, guitar, bass, keys are huge, and the percussion is huge. You're loved. You're loved by all of us on this site. All of us wanted you. And it was important to us that before the end of the year, we made sure we connected with you guys, because we want to say thank you. And we want to say we're glad you're here. And a lot of us want to see you. I hear a lot of things about, why aren't they coming out here, and this and that. And I answer some of them, well, there's an expense, there's costs involved, and they're not ready for that yet. So we're hoping someday you're going to get out here to the West Coast. I'll never.
Well, my answer to people, a lot of people ask us to come to different parts of the country.
Sure.
And my answer to those people is, it's a lot easier for you folks to come here and visit us, check our schedule, and come here, take a vacation in New York or Jersey or Pennsylvania, come see us, because the equipment is just too prohibitive to move. and we've got to pay the bills with our day jobs too. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of groups too, when they travel, they'll pick up. I talk to a lot of drummers and some of the big drummers too, and they have a rig in California, one in New York. They'll leave one in Europe, and the ELP stuff. We have to take that setup. It's not like we can have doubles. That's where it gets difficult because I can't just fly to London and rent the kit. I have that kit specifically set up for the Carl Palmer stuff. I could probably do it with the digital stuff. I could probably take like a memory card and load it in. But that's where the problem comes in. Like we have specific gear and that's got to be moved, and that's where it becomes more difficult for traveling.
So come visit New York. Come visit here, and we'll be happy to play for you.
I am coming. I've been to New York once, Manhattan, and the Niagara Falls, and I'm telling you, I wanted to move to Manhattan. I wanted to be right there in the heart of the world, and I loved it. I really did love it. Plus, I love snow, so
See, I love LA. See, it's like when I get out there, I'm like, oh, get out of New York, but it's a whole different
Candyland. Candyland. Well, I'm going to let you guys close, and if you'd like, if you have some tours, if you have some show dates, I should say, rather than tours, but show dates.
I think, right?
What do you guys have coming up? Why don't you share that with us before you go?
Sure. As a matter of fact, we're starting off the year in Marlborough, New York on January 11th. We'll be at the Falcon Underground. I just want to pull up. I don't remember exact dates, so that's why I want to pull this up. Okay. January 11th, we'll be in Marlborough, New York at the Falcon Underground. We take off February and March. After that, in April, we'll be in New Jersey, in Stanhope, New Jersey, at the Stanhope House. That'll be on April 18th. May 16th, we'll be over in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, at the Stitch Theater. Really, really nice theater. It's a great group over there. In June, we'll be at 89 North in Patchogue on Long Island. That's our only Long Island show for 2020.
Okay. Hear that, Long Islanders? You gotta get your tickets for that show, otherwise you'll lose out.
Right. And then
What's the Strand?
Yeah, we're getting to that. In October, we'll be back in Niagara Falls at the Evening Star Concert Hall, and then November 3rd, we'll be back at the Strand in Hudson Falls, New York.
Oh my goodness sakes. That sounds like a great schedule. Looks like you guys are going to be pretty busy this upcoming year.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. We're adding new material.
Excellent.
A little to give something away. We're working on Pirates right now. So that's going to be a new addition for June. We'll by June we should have that all set, and we're trying to add some new material and make some changes and try and make the show interesting and better, and it'll be a lot of fun.
I know it'll be a lot of fun, and I know everyone that goes is going to have a great time, including me. So, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to make sure we get, that you're heard?
I think we have everything. I mean, I could sit here and talk about this band for hours because
you and me both.
But I think for a first time interview, and we've already kept people up for an hour more than they were planning on.
I know, I feel so bad.
I think we can draw to a close and save some things for the future.
I think that sounds so great, and I look forward to having you back on again without technical difficulties, and maybe a little show attached to it, and some some hello backstage stuff, or, during your sound check, whatever happens. But it'll be great.
But thank you for the opportunity, Dyanne, and we appreciate your asking us to do this. And we had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun. I know that our members will have a lot of fun watching this, and I really am honored that you were okay about saying, "Hey, I'll come over, and let's do this," because it's wonderful to be able to get the inside of a band you really enjoy, and you don't get to do that all the time, because some band members are like, "No, I don't think so," and then others are just like, "I'm too busy." But then you get, you getting them going, them reeling them in.
We appreciate the ELP fans, and if anybody has any other questions they want to ask, come to Manticore, the tribute to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's Manticore, the tribute to ELP, and we'd be happy to answer any more questions that you have.
I was saying, I'm always floored, because after shows we'll get like, what size were the guns, what gear are you using? We had a lot of people, and I'm always, so happy to help them out with their questions. So let them come onto the page with any questions.
Find us on Facebook.
I think that's great. Yeah, because people, you never know when a question is going to pop up in their heads, and being able to just send it over to you, referencing the interview is going to be, it's just another tool. We've just opened another door to another group. And we love you guys. And we thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with me and with our members and just talking about ELP and how you're making your magic work. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, and we love you back.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, and I will talk to you guys probably tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
Manticore, I'm going to talk to you for just a couple more minutes, and after we are done, and then that's all. So let's just say bye-bye. ELP rocks.
See ya.
And I love emo. I have to say that.